Hello, and how are you doing today? Today, we're doing part two of my take, Kelly's take on the blue zones. And if you missed the last episode about the blue zones, basically, we talked about the fact that it's such a hot topic. It's been a hot topic since the Netflix piece came out. But I can tell you, maybe the last 3 years that I've come back through the airport in Costa Rica, there's always been like this blue zone shopping area, right? There's, you have these little shopping areas in the airport. There's always been this blue zone shopping area, and I always glance at it. Interesting stuff. Tea, a lot of tea, a few other things, blue zone books, but I hadn't paid much attention. I mean, I have used blue zone recipes for probably, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years, something like that. It seems like forever, but just here and there. So last week, if you weren't listening to the last episode, I say last week, it was actually the last episode, I covered like what they are, what the blue zones are, like why they matter, some of the basics, and some suggestions on how to implement. So this week, I thought it would be pretty interesting, at least for me, for us to have me do their blue zone quiz, life expectancy quiz, and see how it jibes, what they have to say. And just so you know, next week, and I'll tell you this again, but next episode about the blue zones, you're going to get Kelly's input on what I think we can use the blue zones for and what I think we should be adding in. And then you'll find out why you're going to have to wait 22 years to find out if I was right. So thank you so much for being here. Just so you know, this quiz will be dropped in the show notes today. I do like quizzes. I find them to be interesting. Sometimes they are thought-provoking. And this one was definitely thought-provoking and also provoking, kind of poking. So let's dive in. Thanks for being here. So if you are on YouTube, you're going to see that I'm actually going to take this quiz, but I'm going to answer the same way I did before I got the results. So we don't have to go through the whole login process and everything. So it starts out with, what year were you born? Easy. That one I knew. And then sex, male or female. And then your zip code. And I do imagine that zip codes have some aspect of this. They didn't talk about it, but I live in Houston, Texas. We happen to be like right next to all the petrochemical plants that are here, and most of them in the country. And I have always known that that probably is a thing. Then it looks at your ethnicity. Okay. My height. Got it. Weight. Got it. And then an interesting question. Let's see if it's the next one. What was my weight 2 years ago? So they don't tell me whether the fact that your weight has gone up or down is good. They just ask that question. So I'm throwing some questions in here. Annual household income. Okay, that one is pretty self-explanatory. And then what was the last year of school you got? So some of this. Next one is simple. Have you smoked, not have you smoked pot, sorry. Have you smoked tobacco products in the last 5 years? And then how much? And then chronic diseases. So they go through all of them: hypertension, coronary, congestive heart, myocardial, stroke, emphysema, diabetes, weak or failing kidneys, cancer, so on and so forth. Now, I don't have any of these. I can tell you that I know and have several people in my life that can click almost every one of these. And this is where I'm going to have a little bit of a chat with, is this a good quiz or not? So no chronic diseases. How do you rate your overall health? I'd probably put it at excellent, actually. Over the last year, how has your health changed? That's an important question, because if you think about it, if your health is decreasing, then that is a sign of what's going on. What do you need to be looking at? How do you feel? So truly, I mean, I would say that my health is somewhat better than last year. Why? I don't know. It's because I always think that I'm getting a little bit better. So here's one. During the last 30 days, how many days have you felt sad or depressed? I would not think of myself as someone who is inclined toward depression, but like this is where I'm like answering as absolutely positive or absolutely truthful as I can. And I'm like, well, I probably have been sad. So I put 1 day in there because it's not one of those emotions that I really feel. But I figured, yep, probably sometime in this last month I've had some sadness. So then the next one was, during the past 30 days, how many days have you felt worried, tense, or anxious? I think I put 5 in there. I'm in general, once again, not a big worrier, but there have been times like things come up, things concern me, things that I think about that need to be dealt with. Running a business usually adds a few extra pieces to it. So I put 5 in there. And then during the last 30 days, how many days have you felt angry at least once? This is one that I really thought about, because this morning, as I was walking out my back door, the screen sometimes has this like explosive release. It had an explosive release. It caught me in the heel and it hurt, hurt like hell, actually. And I said several special words as I was taking the trash out. And yeah, it pissed me off, quite frankly. Did I wallow in that? No. Like, I think that this is something that is good to differentiate on. Like, do you get angry and keep it? Do you get angry and, say a couple words you shouldn't in front of your mom and then keep on going? Like, where is that anger? But I thought, you know what? Yeah, I had a big software crash yesterday. Yeah, I can tell you what, I was pretty annoyed for at least probably a good 10 minutes, really, until I, was able to figure out what do I need to do to fix this. So I went ahead and said 15. 15 out of 30 days. Have you felt angry at least once? Yeah. In honesty, there's been touches, right? Like, yep, that screen door caught me in the ankle. And yeah, I was really annoyed. But it's not that I stayed there. So there's a question that I'm not quite sure about. On an average day, how many minutes are you physically active? So I put in there 90. They're saying walking, jogging, gardening, yoga, lifting weights all count. Probably more than 90 because, I do like, the dog walks in the morning don't really count in my world. But, it's probably another 30 minutes, whatever. But 90 seemed like a fair number. So I tossed 90 in there. And do you ever take medication to sleep? Nope, I don't have to. And on average, how many hours per sleep use? How many hours per night do you sleep? That's what it's asking me. So I figured I would give it a 7. Typically I'm more around 7.5, but I don't always nail that. Without a doubt, like, actually last night I had a night that was fairly restless. So my rings told me I had 6.5 hours of sleep. In general, though, I'm saying I hit 7 hours. It doesn't ask anywhere in here is, how is your sleep, right? Like, my sleep is usually like 80-20, pretty darn good. And I'm going to talk a lot about 80-20 in our next episode, because I think that's a big piece of this. So 7 hours. In the past 7 days, how many servings of fresh vegetables did you consume? Okay. Who knows, right? But I would say that on average, really, I probably have about 3 to 4 per day. So I said 3 servings per day to be, on the downside. And then the next one was, how many servings of fruit do you consume? I may have 1 serving of fruit a day. Fruit's not big in my vocabulary. It's something that I probably am more like 5 times a week I have a piece of fruit, but it's just not a big piece of what I do. But I go ahead and I said 1 serving a day. Then this is where I start getting like, really, during the past 7 days, how many servings of unprocessed grains did you consume? So this is an interesting one to me, because I told it, and I'll talk to you about the results in just a minute, but that was like one of its big things was you need more whole grains. I said I probably can eat about 3 servings a day. But see, this is where I thought a serving, like this morning for breakfast, I actually had a corn tortilla. It was a sprouted corn tortilla with some stuff on it, avocado and a few other things. Um, but you know what? Let me just keep going through the quiz, and then we're going to talk about results in a second. Okay, so I said about 3. How many servings of beans did you consume? Like I'm a vegetarian, but I'm still not throwing down on beans every day. But probably, well, actually, I probably have 1 serving a day. So that was fair. And then how many servings of nuts did you consume? Depends on how many nuts are in the house. I try not to eat a lot of nuts. I eat nuts pretty much every day, but I try not to eat a ton of them because even though I've been told numerous times that this is a great source of protein, like especially if you're a vegetarian, great source of protein. When you look at the amount of protein versus the amount of calories, it's not the greatest. Okay. I mean, I think we should eat nuts. I think we shouldn't just be throwing down on them all the time. So I think I said that I consumed 2 to 3 servings a day. Since it wouldn't let me say 2 to 3, I said 3. Because when I eat nuts, like this morning, I had some Brazil nuts and I probably had 5 of them. And I think a serving of Brazil nuts is supposed to be 3. So toss that in there. How many servings of seafood or fish? None. I don't eat fish yet. How many servings of meat? None. Don't eat meat. How many servings of dairy products? I put in there 2, 2 per day. I kind of depends on what a serving size is. And this is where I'm going to talk about what I'm going to talk about when we get to the results. Depends on a serving size. I put a little bit of milk into my coffee most mornings, and I usually have some cheese on 1 meal a day or some tzatziki. During the past 7 days, how many servings of sweets do you consume? Actually, I didn't have any this last week. How many salty snacks? Oh, wait. On the sweets, I went ahead and said 1 a day because twice this week I've had Phil has got to quit bringing stuff home. He's like, would you like this piece of chocolate caramel? And I'd completely forgot about that. And I said, yes. So I called it a serving. During the past 7 days, how many servings of salty snacks did you consume? Actually, none. Not against them, but just don't usually have them. Okay, during the past 7 days, how many meals did you eat at a fast food chain? None. During the past week, on average, how many alcoholic beverages did you consume? And they want you to drink wine. Like that's one of the things in the Blue Zone we'll get to is that drink that wine. So I would say on average, I have 0 to 1 glass of wine a day, but there are some days that I have 2. So I went ahead and I said 2 drinks a day. Not sure which way I should go with that, but I figured that, 2 drinks is not as good for you as 1. So that was my thinking. What best describes your relationship status? And how satisfied are you in your relationship? And how satisfied are you in your work life? And then during the past 7 days, how many times did you socialize with people you like? Now, I like that one question because people you like. We do tend to socialize sometimes with people that, aren't really the ones that are just like making us super happy. What it didn't ask is this talking on the phone, right? Like my best friend lives probably an hour and a half away by car. We talk on the phone. We don't see each other in person, but every couple of months. Some of my other friends, I only see when we go do certain things. So I said maybe 2 times, but really that's not fair because when I get on a call with the women in my group, they're my friends. I love them. And so does that count or not? And then the next one is in the past 7 days, how many religious activities did I attend? Actually, none. And according to them, it includes worship services, choir, or other religious group activities, but not prayer or meditation. Okay, that's an interesting division there. And then how many minutes does it take to get to your closest store that sells fresh produce? Okay, it takes me a good 20 minutes when there's no traffic. That's a fair one. So here's what it said for my life expectancy. And this is where I was like, wait a second, what are we talking about? So it told me that my healthy life expectancy is 85 and a half years. To me, that sounds short. Like, it does. My mother was very, very healthy, and she did smoke. That was probably the one thing that she shouldn't have been doing. She did get a heart attack and died of complications from a heart attack at 85. So maybe they're right. Maybe they're right, but I don't know. So honestly, that 85 and a half was like, well, that's kind of depressing, because it says that's your healthy life expectancy. Your life expectancy for me was 93 years. So to me, life expectancy, healthy life expectancy is when we're doing the things that we want to do and having fun doing them, right? We can still do everything we want to do. And that may not be exactly how they judge this, but then your life expectancy is 93 for me, which means that somewhere for 7 years, I might have like a bit of a rough time. But then it goes on and it says your potential life expectancy. So this is what could happen, I guess, if everything is perfect and you just live really long. And they've got me at 97 years. So I was like, I'm not sure I like these numbers. Like my thought has always been that I'm going to do really, really well until I don't. That's my way of looking at all this. So it said that I could add 4.8 more years. So my life expectancy, quote unquote, is 93 years. And your healthy life expectancy, I'm reading the quiz to you. The years free of cancer, heart disease, and diabetes is 85.5 or 6, really. You can add up to 4.8 more years to your life and add healthy years to your life by optimizing your lifestyle and your environment. I'm like, okay, I'm interested. Tell me more. So first thing it tells me is whole grains. This is the one that it wants me to look at first. So whole grains, in general, okay, just so y'all know, in general, when I'm eating grains, they are whole unless I get that, that pasta. If you've listened to me ever at all, like that's my favorite thing. So I'll have usually a meal of pasta once a week. Sometimes we have pizza. That's usually more like on a good month, once a month. Okay. But I do have those. All right. And I live in Texas. Probably once a month we go out for Mexican food and I have chips there. So I'm thinking that, those are my main processed ones, but it's telling me in whole grains that I need to add whole grains to my, it doesn't tell me exactly, but what it tells me is the daily recommended servings for whole grains for me, according to them, is 3 to 4 ounces equivalent, 3 to 4 servings for most men and women. So then I go and I look at what's a serving. Like this morning, I said I had that corn tortilla. They said that 3 corn tortillas was a serving. I can eat. I am a really good eater. I've got a great appetite. I couldn't eat 3 corn tortillas with stuff on them. Like I'd be stuffed. So there's a problem. And the next one is if you're on YouTube, if you're watching this on the YouTube, I'm going to hold up something. I'm holding up this. This one is barley and lentils. So barley and lentils are these packaged grains I found where they come prepackaged. They're already ready to go. All you do is heat them in the microwave. Like they're my go-to every day because they're easy and fast. One bag of this is supposed to be a serving. Oh my goodness, I can't eat a bag of this. And once again, I can eat. I I have a great appetite. I eat more than Phil half the time. So I probably shouldn't admit that to the world, but I do. Like I eat. So how am I supposed to knock back this entire bag, which is one serving? And so I just started looking at it and I was going, okay, there's a lot of questions to me in here. Is, what's a real serving? Like this one has for 3 to 4 ounce servings. And I'm looking in this what I just was talking about. And it is 8 ounces. So that's 2 servings. So look at that and see, like, how much are you really eating of whole grains? I think I eat more whole grains than I think, because if you look at their very fine print, what we consider a serving and what Blue Zones is considering a serving is a little different. Fruit. They want me to eat more fruit. So maybe I should. Okay, maybe I should. I also know that I'm just not a huge food person. I mean, I'm a huge food person, but not a huge fruit person. So sure, maybe I could go up to 1 serving every day that I know I'm having. But then the interesting thing there is that it depends on what you're eating, but you can start bouncing up against the idea of, like, American Heart Association. They say 25 grams of sugar a day, and that includes fruit. So some fruits are definitely more heavy in sugar than others. And also, serving sizes are once again a little bit subjective. So then the next thing, the Blue Zones wants me to be more friendly. You may already know this, but I found that kind of funny. But they say that strong friendships lead to longer lives. And I do believe that. But I also believe, and we're going to talk about this in the next episode I do on this, I also believe that we can't always be with the person or people that we like the most. Sometimes it's a chat on the phone, which, according to the quiz, didn't count. Sometimes it's, a group, like, quite frankly, sometimes it's a group chat with a Zoom. It doesn't always work, especially, like, I have friends all over the world. So I don't get to see them but once in a blue moon, but we talk. So I think there's a fine line. I do know that relationships matter. And in that, and we'll talk about this more next episode, because I do have some suggestions on how to make relationships count, even if you're not, like, with them all the time. Next one that they want to increase my lifespan with is to have faith. And by faith, they suggest that I become more church going. And that's kind of an oxymoron, because I'm not church going at all, quite frankly. So if you are church going, I have nothing against the church, but I grew up in the church. It's not my lifestyle. So thinking about that, like, they want us to have more faith and to create longevity. The other thing is, and I did not catch this in the quiz, but they also, in the Blue Zones, we talked about this last episode, is that one of the things is that you want to have purpose. And I think purpose matters. I missed the question on purpose. I missed the question about purpose, but I think that right here, they're counting faith, having a faith-based religion, as being your only purpose. And I believe that we have so many other ways of doing that. And we'll talk about them next episode, okay? But just know that. So in the Blue Zones, there was often, and I will say, like, a lot of them had faith-based communities. But I'm going to give it a but. If you go into any small, now I'm in the United States, but any small town in the South, okay, everything revolves around the churches. So that is where all the community is. It's it's where the dinners are. It's where the Sunday gatherings are. It's where people get together for this and that. I mean, it is very church based. So I understand that, but I also think that there's other ways of having community. So then the next thing they told me was my anxiety and my stress. We all feel moments of stress and anxiety. But with depression, now remember, I answered 1 day a month, and this is me going, well, yeah, I mean, I didn't not get out of bed, but maybe there was a day I went, geez, Louise, could this get a little easier? Right. And then, and then you bounce back. And then I need to improve my attitude. Now it's starting to sound like my mother or my father, really. So it goes on to say that, anger can surface in many places, but maybe it runs deeper. Something long simmering frustration over an issue at work, at home, or maybe not. Okay, I'm just going to say, or maybe not, Blue Zones. Maybe if in this quiz, they took into consideration, are you a meditator? How do you deal with stress? How do you change your outlook? How do you make a difference? Okay, all of us have this in life, and it's a matter of how do we shift from what's not working to what's working. So, all right, I'm not going to tell the Blue Zones that they're not doing something right, because quite frankly, it's a very, very big deal. And I think they've done a lot of stuff right. We talked about that last week. And that last episode, I keep saying, if you missed that episode and you want a good general overall look at the Blue Zones, go listen to it. I just talked about very quick, because I think that at this point in life, or at this point in time, the Netflix documentary has done a pretty good job of at least touching on points. And I know lots of people in my community have basically binge watched it. And I think they did a great job. So I can tell you this one thing, based on everything they said, we'll have to wait a while to see whether or not they got it right or I've got it right, because I think that I've got a little bit more life in me than they're giving me, a little bit more good life, but we'll see. And then the other thing is that there are some things that I think, as a community, I'm in the United States, but most of the people who listen to this are United States, Canada, UK, got a few Aussies, got a few people in Hungary, got a few people in other parts of the world, but the majority are in those, first, they're English speaking, because that's my language, right? And I think there's things that we can be doing that might be a little different than what they suggest. Let me say this differently. I think that what they suggest in the Blue Zones is excellent. And I think there's ways that we can make it better. So today, your takeaway. 1, if you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to the last episode and just kind of get caught up. The Blue Zones and this research has been around for a long time. I probably had their first cookbook from maybe 15 years ago. So it's been around for a while. It's hit its stride now, because people are, seeing it on a big channel. So it's a known entity now. So go back and listen to it and see how you can pick up a few things that you might want to incorporate into your world right now. And then come back and listen to the next episode, because on that one, I really want to wrap up some of my ideas that we didn't talk about that aren't really talked about in the Blue Zones, but I think they make a huge difference in how we, as people in a more industrialized lifestyle, can actually make differences. And then the last thing is, go take the quiz yourself. It's in the show notes. We dropped it in the show notes for you. Take that quiz. Let me know. Drop me a comment. Drop me an email. I want to know if you're like, whoa, this is amazing, or, oh, this is really sad. So I'd like to know. So in the meanwhile, I will see you on the next episode. Have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you soon. Take care. Bye bye now.